Imagine this, a brand new Boeing 737 MAX, polished and ready for delivery to one of the fastest growing aviation markets in the world, takes off from the factory, and then is forced to turn back to Seattle. No flight to China, no delivery. Just a sudden, expensive U-turn. This isn't just a minor delay, it's a headline-making shock. China, the world's second-largest economy and home to 1.4 billion people, may suspend Boeing aircraft deliveries and halt imports of all related parts. The potential impact? A staggering $28 billion in orders hangs in the balance. For Boeing, a global aviation giant that has relied on China for a massive share of its business, this is a high-stakes crisis. Think about it. Losing access to the world's fastest-growing air travel market isn't just a financial hit. It's a strategic nightmare. Boeing risks losing its dominance in a market where billions of dollars in orders could vanish almost overnight. Airlines planning to expand their fleets could turn elsewhere. Competitors could swoop in, and Boeing's reputation as a reliable supplier faces unprecedented scrutiny. This is more than a business story. It's a dramatic collision of politics, economics, and global strategy. And it all started with tariffs, trade tensions, and a single, forced return flight. To understand why Boeing's sudden crisis in China is such a big deal, we need to look at the size and importance of China's aviation market. With 1.4 billion people, China isn't just a big market. It's a goldmine for airlines and aircraft manufacturers. Air travel is booming, and the demand for both passenger and cargo planes is skyrocketing. Over the past 20 years, Boeing has earned roughly $10 billion annually from Chinese orders alone. That's not a small chunk of revenue. It's a cornerstone of their global business. In terms of fleet size, Boeing has historically held a dominant position. Out of 4,324 commercial aircraft in China, Boeing operates 1,821. Airbus slightly leads with 2,228 aircraft, while domestically produced planes make up just 117. This shows two things. First, Boeing has been a trusted, established partner for Chinese airlines. Second, even a temporary disruption in deliveries or a major policy shift can immediately shake the balance of the market. Every delay, tariff, or political maneuver has the potential to affect billions of dollars in contracts, airline operations, and even passenger travel plans. In short, Boeing isn't just losing a sale, it's losing influence in a market that could define the next 2 decades of global aviation. And that sets the stage for the next layer of this story: how politics and trade wars suddenly put that dominance at risk. Now that we understand the size of China's aviation market, let's look at how politics threw a wrench into Boeing's plans. Under President Trump, the U.S. started aggressively using tariffs as a tool to pressure other countries. Early in his term, he imposed 25% tariffs on key products from neighbors like Canada and Mexico. But he didn't stop there. He introduced reciprocal tariffs on specific goods, sometimes as high as 254%. The idea was simple: make imports from certain countries more expensive, force negotiations, and protect U.S. industries. China, being the U.S.'s long-term strategic competitor, quickly became a primary target. Tariffs on Chinese goods escalated from an initial 10% in 2018 to a jaw-dropping 245% on some items. Naturally, this didn't sit well with Beijing. China retaliated systematically, first with export controls, particularly on rare earths crucial for technology and manufacturing, and later with a 125% tariff on U.S.-made goods, including aircraft parts. What does this mean for Boeing? A plane that might normally cost $150 million suddenly becomes far more expensive due to tariffs. Airlines in China may pause or cancel orders simply because the economics no longer make sense. In other words, Boeing isn't just competing with Airbus or China's domestic aircraft. It's now battling geopolitics. Trade wars aren't just about numbers on paper. They ripple through production schedules, supply chains, and even airline profitability. For Boeing, this is a direct hit in its most critical growth market, showing how a political decision can instantly turn a $28 billion opportunity into a high-stakes crisis. Even before tariffs made things complicated, Boeing was already facing serious internal challenges. First, there were supply chain disruptions. In 2024, a massive strike involving over 30,000 workers lasted more than 7 weeks, halting multiple production lines and delaying deliveries. Imagine trying to build a giant puzzle when half the pieces aren't arriving on time. That's what Boeing was dealing with. Delays like these hit not just the factory floor, but airlines counting on timely deliveries to expand or replace their fleets. On top of that, Boeing's reputation took a huge hit from 2 high-profile 737 MAX crashes. In October 2018, a flight in Indonesia went down shortly after takeoff, killing 189 people. Only months later, in March 2019, another 737 MAX crashed in Ethiopia with 157 fatalities. Investigations revealed flaws in new flight control systems and concerns about Boeing's transparency. These tragedies shook public confidence worldwide and forced regulators to ground the 737 MAX for years. Audit failures compounded the problem. In early 2024, Boeing faced 89 audits from the Federal Aviation Administration, and 33 of them failed, a nearly 40% failure rate. Even key suppliers like Spirit AeroSystems had more than half their audits fail. These lapses made airlines nervous, not just in China, but globally. Put together, strikes, supply chain problems, and safety concerns made Boeing vulnerable. Even without tariffs, the company was struggling to deliver planes on time and maintain trust. When politics entered the mix, Boeing's position in China and its global dominance was suddenly at serious risk. China didn't wait long to respond to the escalating trade tensions. In April, Beijing implemented a 125% tariff on U.S. goods, including Boeing aircraft and related parts. To put that in perspective, a plane that cost $150 million before tariffs could now effectively cost nearly double. For airlines, that's a huge financial hit, enough to make even loyal customers reconsider their orders. But China didn't stop at tariffs. The government also instructed airlines and relevant companies to suspend the acceptance of Boeing 737 MAX deliveries and halt imports of related parts. While this wasn't an outright ban, it effectively made it impossible for Boeing to operate normally in China. It's like telling someone they can buy a car, but only if they pay triple the price and can't get spare parts. Most buyers would look elsewhere. These moves show how government policy can reshape an entire industry. By using tariffs as both a financial lever and a strategic tool, China protected its domestic interests while sending a clear signal foreign companies, even giants like Boeing, can no longer rely solely on historical dominance. At the same time, these policies gave domestic aircraft manufacturers like COMAC the breathing room to grow, positioning them as viable alternatives for Chinese airlines. The stage was set for a dramatic shift in global aviation dynamics. While Boeing struggled with tariffs and delivery suspensions, China's domestic aviation industry quietly gained momentum. At the center of this rise is the COMAC C919, China's homegrown narrow-body passenger jet designed to compete directly with Boeing 737 and Airbus A320 models. By 2025, 18 C919 aircraft had already been delivered and put into commercial operation. These planes had accumulated over 23,000 flight hours and carried more than 1.27 million passengers across more than 9,600 commercial flights. That's a strong start for a new model in a highly competitive industry. What makes the C919 even more appealing is its versatility. It can be quickly converted into a medical aircraft or cargo plane, able to carry field hospital equipment for emergencies or humanitarian missions. This flexibility is a real game changer for airlines and governments alike. Speed of delivery is another advantage. For example, Vietnam received its C919 aircraft just 3 months after signing the contract, a stark contrast to Boeing's delays caused by labor strikes and production bottlenecks. In aviation, reliability and timely delivery are as critical as the plane itself. Airlines can't afford long wait times when demand is surging. The C919's early success demonstrates that China is no longer a passive buyer of foreign aircraft. It is actively building its own aviation capabilities. As production scales up, COMAC plans to produce 150 aircraft annually by 2027, with a localization rate exceeding 80% by 2028. This signals that within a few years, the C919 could seriously challenge Boeing and Airbus for market share, reshaping global aviation. Boeing's troubles in China aren't just about one company or one country. They reveal how politics, economics, and technology collide in the global aviation market. Tariffs, trade tensions, and regulatory decisions can instantly shift the playing field, affecting not just aircraft manufacturers, but airlines, supply chains, and even everyday consumers. Take tariffs, for example. The 125% tariffs China imposed on U.S. goods didn't just make Boeing planes more expensive, they changed the financial calculus for airlines. Suddenly, domestic alternatives like the C919 became not only viable, but attractive. This shows how government policy can redirect billions of dollars in business almost overnight. There are ripple effects beyond airlines, too. Small and medium-sized businesses in the U.S., which rely on imported parts and materials, are squeezed by higher costs. Panic buying can disrupt markets, while large orders may be delayed or canceled. Boeing's situation illustrates that no industry, even a global giant, can escape the consequences of political and economic friction. Moreover, the rise of domestic alternatives in China demonstrates a broader trend. Countries are increasingly investing in self-reliance for strategic industries. Aviation isn't just about transportation, it's about national security, technological leadership, and economic independence. Countries like China are leveraging this to reduce dependence on foreign suppliers, which has long-term implications for global trade patterns. In short, Boeing's challenges serve as a case study in how safety concerns, labor issues, tariffs, and competition intersect. Companies now operate in a world where markets, politics, and technology are tightly intertwined, and a single disruption in one area can cascade across the globe. Looking ahead, the aviation landscape is changing faster than ever. China is no longer just a market for foreign planes. It's becoming a serious competitor with the C919, which has already proven itself in commercial service and even in specialized missions like medical and cargo transport. In just a few years, it's likely that Chinese aircraft will compete directly with Boeing and Airbus, putting pressure on their market share worldwide. For Boeing, this is a wake-up call. Supply chain vulnerabilities, labor strikes, safety scandals, and trade tensions all converge to make previously stable markets unpredictable. Even a global aviation giant can lose ground if it cannot adapt to political, economic, and technological shifts simultaneously. The broader lesson is clear. The future of aviation is no longer dominated solely by legacy Western manufacturers. Countries are increasingly investing in homegrown technology, using policy and innovation to shape their own markets. Airlines, governments, and investors will need to weigh cost, safety, and strategic considerations more carefully than ever. For viewers, this story highlights how closely intertwined global trade, politics, and technology really are. It's not just about planes, it's about who controls the skies, who sets the standards, and how markets evolve in an interconnected world. If you want to stay updated on the latest in aviation, trade conflicts, and technological breakthroughs, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The skies are changing, and the next chapter of global aviation is just beginning.